Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Day 9 Daily, number part 3, where we learn to be a better gamer. In this game, we see Oz and Hyun are pretty much equal at this point in time. Much to my chagrin. And Hyun does something that I think is a little odd, but makes a certain kind of sense. Remember how we talked about this idea of you can be a little inefficient in your army if you are ahead in resources. And this is effectively what Hyun is going to do. He's going to try to expand here, again, without really that much money. Because if Hyun is mining out in his main, Oz is definitely almost broken his. Oz is probably getting broke at this natural, as our Zerg player will know on his side. So it's like a 1.5 base versus soon to be a 3 base scenario. I think this is a really cool move by Hyun to try to extend his lead here, or try to form a lead here by getting a lot of these good for cheapo army moves. So this expand is up. But normally this expand is blockaded by a lot of gateways and or cannons. Not going to be the case anymore. There's not enough funds to throw these blocks. Hyun also goes for Overlord speed, but again, no geysers up in the main. Hyun is just hoping to overrun with huge numbers of roaches, lots of counterattack, because remember, no cannons or gateways are really going to be here. And Oz is hoping for a big ol' engagement where he can force field everything. All the big key upgrades are almost done. And once these rocks fall down, if done right, Hyun can just split his army up endlessly and get into really good engagements. I think this is an example of one of these engagements that I would probably want to do a burrow retreat. A little bit late. But with just a few roaches counterattacking during that, Hyun can pull like a huge lead. Roach counterattacks are really hard for Protosses to deal with. There's not a good unit to warp in. Roaches are only beaten by big armies for the most part. So by continuing to go Ling Roach, Hyun is again hoping to just sort of overrun. And here's the moment that I think Hyun did something he did not quite need to do, which is to take all these drones that were leaving this expansion, transferring up here, and then just attacking with them. Because in this fight, all the transfuses and all the units did manage to barely break through. And Oz, you know, has to do his good old pullback. I mean, or excuse me, good old reinforce. But still, there's like just so close to there not being any more resources. I think that Hyun didn't need to try to win that one battle. And then we start to see again the true power of the Roach counterattack, that Hyun can actually have retreated a little earlier. But in this moment where he does a single counterattack, suddenly Oz is in a really gross economic position. And being down to just 28 roaches, this is really hard for Hyun to make a sort of tenable comeback. Oh, poor queens. Oh my god. I love burrowed roaches on this map. They are so cool. Hyun opening up all the various corridors. Oz is more or less going to win. I think Hyun does all the good hang on as long as you can moves. Sees this army here. I think he transfers these drones up at this point in time and throws down like a buttload of spine crawlers. This I really like. I like this move plus a huge attack at the main base of Oz. Or at the very least, like a clearing out of this. All that's good snazzy jazz. Mining as long as we can. Rebuilding the spawning pool. I think Hyun's more or less not in good shape. After that battle where he sent in the drones and lost all of them, I don't think Hyun quite has the oomph. He's a little bit oomphless. Yeah, I mean, this game was pretty much insane from start to finish. Hyun, I don't think, is ever going to be able to keep these bases alive. And because Oz is keeping so many units out here, this obviously makes the strength of really, really committed counterattacks super strong. And any warp-in stuffs can easily be retreated from with the burrow mechanic. So Hyun begins to rebuild himself another hatchery. Excuse me, rebuild himself another layer. And when I first saw this, I was like, no, this can't be good. The big spine crawler play. And then I realized that you can actually put spines right here and here, like in this whole region, and secure yourself this base. So I was like, actually, yeah, that's pretty fine. And it's at this point where I just would have loved all these lings and roaches to be nowhere near here. I think that this is a reasonable enough force to try to hold off this, that Hyun should be willing to risk leaving these roaches out. Or at the very least, have some of the roaches for a big counterattack. Counterattacks, especially once you are stuck on low tech, was really going to be Hyun's only chance. But Oz did a great job of sort of zoning things around, pushing them every which way, to where they did end up retreating here and kind of cut off Hyun's chances. Although Hyun knows the sneaky places to expand. Then in a move of sheer brilliance that I'm like blown away by this great move. Just suddenly going for Devil Stargate Void Ray. Because what really can the Zerg do about that? I just think that's so brilliant. Infestation Pit and Nidus Network. So good. Once there's expansions up, we see also Ventral Sacs get started and then canceled. The Nidus Network never really does anything. Void Rays are so cool. And then all of a sudden, Oz is like, wait, you might be going. You just might be going for Swarm Host, so I'm going to get charged, and then begins to get Boatload of Templar for Storm. Begins to scout around for Void Rays. And this is like the grossest position in the whole wide world for Hyun. He has to go Queen Swarm Host. He doesn't really have any other choice other than to go Queen Swarm Host, because he's seen Void Rays. And then this makes a very predictable attack for Oz, where he can walk up all the Stormers. So if I were either of these players, after this game, I would just be tired. I'd be just drained, man. Games like these are just hard, because units deal damage so fast in StarCraft 2 that there's really not that much that you can do. If you're not in the right place at the right time. So this game, I think, is like the perfect contrast to the previous game. Because in the previous game, Oz made some nice moves. After some back and forth, some very weird follow-up decisions, I think Hyun and Oz were relatively even, and then Oz went for a huge army, and Hyun got caught a little bit out of position and then eventually was whittled away. In this game, we see a fairly typical triple hatch play coming out of Hyun. We see a fairly typical early expand play. Oz is going super bold and doing no wall-offs at the front at all. He does it, like, super, super late. Come on, go for it. There they are. There we are. So we see Zealot harassment, we see forges, we soon enough see early expands. This is a pretty typical game. C'est très typical. We see Hyun even going for the backup Force Hatchery. This is where typically a player would be... oh yeah, we see another little nice push. See the benefit of those such things. This is where Hyun is starting to go, wait a minute, dude. You're going for an expand. You did your little harassment antics. Hyun kind of is getting hit in a couple places. Almost loses the hatch, but doesn't. Okay, cool. Hyun's beginning a transition to Spire. Pretty common. Okay, cool. And then Oz does just a sheer brilliant. Oh, so good. He gets one Immortal, and then just bolts in here to target fire this, and then run the hell out again. This is the sort of move that just ends games. He's knocked the Zerg player down to 3 bases worth of gas, which is not nearly enough to support a Spire tech. If he's not going to be up against Spire tech, then he's pretty much going to be fine. So we're going to open up the Hyun camp. So Hyun actually sees this army moving forward, is not actually in a great position. Lost a few workers, has a largely roach force that's soon enough going to be very, very, very useless, because on this map, force fields are just so good. Because, I mean, look at this. 2 force fields has almost blocked off the entire movement path. And we talked about how if you have a big roach force, you can go for just these huge counterattacks that are really, really tough to deal with. So we see again. Uh-oh. Hyun's counterattack. He could have pulled out a little sooner. But then let's watch again. Building up a lot of spines. Not in the best position. Getting in position. Does he have Overlord speed? No, he just has how many? Jeez, 8 Overseers, and then oh, does have Overlord speed. Okay, cool. Continues to try to expand, and I mean this attack from Oz again should be a game-ending thing. And these big counterattacks, so good, so good. Just target fires and kills this off. As he's losing this, he begins to expand here. I think he messes up and doesn't cancel. Target fireth. Has himself a grand ode. I just love this as a contrast game, the last one, where we saw opportunities for counterattack not really taken, and then a single counterattack opportunity went okay. Definitely forced a pullback. And then the second big one just rocked through. And again, not a really amazingly potent force. Just 1-1 roaches. 0-1 lings. Lost a good amount. I thought that was very, very sexy. So because I am a timely dude, what I am going to do is go directly into the next game. So I think that this is probably one of the underexplored regions of Zerg versus Protoss. Not like never explored, but underexplored. The counterattacking of those Ling Roach forces. Would love to see more, because man is it effective when it works out right. So in this final game, we see one of these moves that represents everything I love about high-level play. So we've been seeing a back and forth. We see an early pool. We see Mr. Overlord heading on in. And you know what Oz has done almost every single game? Almost every single game, he has gone straight for a gateway. So I want to make sure that we see this in order. Hyun to the Hyun cam. So he's trying to kill this off. Nice, he does. Clicks on that gateway. And then builds 6 Zerglings and just rallies them over. Great. Builds a queen. Literally starts building the Zerglings before building the queen. Does an extractor trick to make sure the queen gets started. Goes Zergling's Queen Extractor trick, then Overlord. And sends these 6 Lingies right on over. Oh gosh, I love this. And then we see yet again a very early Cybernetics core. And boom, the wall off gets done. Kinda not really. The most important aspect of Oz's build gets target fired and is cancelled. Uh-oh. In the meantime, you'll note that there's a hatch going down. There's nothing but drones being built on this backside. But Hyun, with a little adjustment, not a little blind adjustment, but a little adjustment based upon what he saw, he's gotten to do some big, big, big damage. This Cybernetics core is no longer an early Cybernetics core. He's killed off a pylon. He's killed off some probes. He sees that a second gas geyser isn't done. So good. Yeah. Something's wrong with my encoder, and I don't know what it is. But I'm gonna be done being distracted. Anyways, so Hyun is doing some smart spotting. He's seeing that there's no geysers here. He hasn't spotted anything yet. Just has these 10 lings here. We actually are going to go to the Hyun can. Oz, I think, just was feeling desperate. He lost some pretty important units, some pretty important zealots. Now he's going to run the risk of losing this move-out force. So we see a pretty typical, again, around 6:30 gas. More drones getting produced. And then I think in one of the weirder choices possible, Oz builds all his gateways in plain sight of this Overlord. Normally you want to build them more on the backside, but it's really this Overlord that's the hero. I see no third, I see no extra gas geysers. You are probably preparing a big ol' attack. And seeing these extra stalkers, I think would be more than enough for me. Plus. And then sees things. And just goes for basic speedling, or basic slowlings. Queens. I love watching Hyun do this. Never really builds a lot of spines, just gets queens. Queens are great. Runs to this side. Oh, the Ling hug. Target fires the Mama Ship core. I think that is one of the strongest defenses. It wasn't even a hard defense as you saw it. Just clean and beautiful. What a win. So I think that there were some standardnesses in this series. I think that the game 5, or the Ultrazim Stronghold game and the Frost game, very typical Zerg vs Protoss games. But I love the game 1 from Hyun, the play that exploited on Daedalus Point, the little bit of a distance between the Nexus and where a cannon would need to defend the front. Game 3, where No, that was game 3. Yeah, I already talked about game 3. Sorry, got confused. Game 4 on Frost, where we saw Oz just make some really clever micro decisions, but the linking of them together kind of made a little bit of a... Hyun wasn't quite able to counterattack to get a win in, but then did do the beautiful counterattacks on Heavy Rain. Amazingly timed counterattacks. And they weren't even like huge maxed army Roach all-in counterattacks, just nice tiny little counterattacks did wonders to win. And this game, Hyun just having an amazing defense after setting himself up for a great clean win with just that sexy little 6-ling opening. Loved it. So we had 2 Protosses and 1 Zerg win in their respective regions. Hyun should be very pleased with himself. Yeah. Oh my god! Utoro Kyoya asked for a really long question. I'm gonna open it up in Notepad and paste it. Paste. Utoru Kyoya says, Day 9 of the GSL and WCS Finals, we've observed players make good use of proxies and counter proxies in the early game. This includes these games. Su and Hyun made for quick work on their opponents in game 4. Counters game relies on less skill. Is there a strategy where you can safely pressure Zerg in the early game that can give you an outright victory or a competitive advantage? I think the ones to look for, the player of inspiration is going to be SOS in this case. So SOS does a lot of things that I like. That when you watch him play against pros, it doesn't look like win plays, but can just like win you games like that. Here's one. Do a regular expand. Get a Stalker to drive out any scouting overlord. Go for a Stargate, Oracle, Void Ray. The Oracle sometimes wins the games clean and easy. The Void Ray allows you to take a third base with virtually no problems. I mean, anything that he sends at that early time in the game is going to lose because it doesn't shoot up. So, that's the one that you will watch many players just swat aside the Oracle. But against a weaker Zerg player, even some Masters and Grandmasters, you just kill them with the Oracle. You kill like 10 freaking drones. Another one is to, if you see your opponent go for 3 hatches, and you see him not get like a 430 gas, you see him wait a while to get his gas, you know he doesn't have speedlings. So we've seen we've seen SOS just go for fast 4-gate and then just go for mostly stalkers. Just get like 6 stalkers and warp in and harass really, really hard. And it's very difficult for many Zerg players to deal with that. And then the natural follow-up from that is to go Twilight Council, expand. Or Twilight Council, many more gates, and then expand. Things like that I like. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of cannon rushing. I think that that was kind of a cool one. Yeah. So 9 Monday asks, what happens if the game 2 would have been longer drawn out? I think you're referring to the game 3 on Altersim. I think. I hope. I sure hope. Was it? I don't remember. I'm going to assume you're talking about the Altersim game. The gases from Hyun were depleted and he couldn't build any more gas-expensive units. So wouldn't Hyun die with that Mutacorruptor style in a longer game? Probably not still. I mean, certainly once the game extends out and we hit back to a point of equality, then certainly Mutacorruptor is less efficient than whatever the hell Protoss could make. But the correct move is to just keep expanding ahead. We saw the 6th base going up for Hyun. And as the main would have been depleted soon, he would have been able to transfer his drones there and still been on 10 gas income production. So that's what I would say. I don't really think that there's a high probability that it would lose in a longer drawn-out game. I think if it's a really long drawn-out game like Zest vs. Su, you can just watch Zest vs. Su and sort of see what the game is like in that position. But I think it's great. I'm going to take one more. Starscree asks a brutal question. We got to see Hyun go a strong air-based build. As Protoss, if you weren't expecting it, or it was a transition, and you have a more Colossus-based army, like 4 to 6 Colossus, is it even possible to make a comeback as Protoss and win? Probably not. No. Not if you're against a good player. I think that if you see Mutalisks and you weren't expecting them, you're probably dead immediately. If for some reason you can prevent him from killing off probes, you need to get 3 Stargate. I've been preaching 2 Stargate earlier in this build, earlier in this show. But you just need to catch up freaking fast. And you're going to have to suddenly begin to play the slowest game of StarCraft ever. Build lots of cannons. I'm going to assume you have Blink. Hold your stalkers in defensive locations and wait. Stay on 3 base. Stay. Wait. Wait. Hang out. Chill. Wait. Get your Phoenix army up. Slowly move out in the manner of Zest versus Sue. But you are totally screwed at that point in time. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to try to call a massage place and see if they can squeeze me in tonight. I should say squeeze me tonight. I shouldn't say that because it sounds like a felony. And tomorrow I'll be playing Guacamelee, after which I will go pick up Tristan's puppy with him, as he's getting a new puppy. Let me show you a photo of the puppy. And then I will begin my vacation. Because I'm not taking a vacation because I'm like, you know what? It was the time I had a plan of stuff I wanted to do, but it's just because I was tired. So I'm going to try to rest a lot. Here's the puppy. Are you ready for the puppy? Oh, oh my God, he's like a little hippopotamus. Oh, have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow.